All right. Again, we have a lot happening this afternoon, but we want to start with this. I want to say this is our first guest that has made their way back to Live Impact News. Second time guest. I've interviewed her 3 times. Second time guest here on Live Impact News. And now a CMS school board member. District 1. So District 1, you're talking about Davidson, Cornelius, Huntersville, North Mech, which is a huge, a lot of land, a lot of people, a lot of development. You may have guessed the newly elected CMS school board member, Dr. Charlitta Hatch. Thank you for coming back.
Yes, thank you for having me, and happy holidays. I also am still making a list and checking it twice. And I am very much concerned about everything getting here on time because there are little people in my home, a 4-year-old and an 8-year-old, who are depending on Santa to make sure he's on time. So I don't have the luxury of saying it gets here when it gets here.
What was on a couple of things on their Christmas list?
So the 4-year-old is really simple. I mean, I think we could go to the dollar store and ball out.
Really?
You know, wow. Unicorns, mermaids, Barbies. They have Disney stuff there, all kind of arts and crafts. I like to get the big posters, and also remember the science board, science fair board posters for painting, and like those things are great. So, I mean, there's not much stress there. But my son is so difficult at 8. He wants to switch too, which is,
it's hard to get your hands on.
I was about to say.
Not only is it hard to get your hands on, it's expensive.
It is.
And so then you start to get into the conversation around, if you get this 8-year-old this gift, but then you go to the dollar store and get 20 gifts. Yeah. But little kids, they understand money, but not really.
Yeah.
And so on Christmas, when you have 1 or 2 gifts and somebody else has 20, how do you balance that? Right? So, I mean, we've been having that conversation, my husband and I, around like, okay, like there's this economic disparity, but there's also quantity and just trying to be fair and like all of those things. But he's into soccer, he's into Roblox, which we won't let him play, so he's asked for that for Christmas. He wants to play Minecraft for Christmas. So it's all kind of video games things that we're still kind of hesitant about because of the it's not the game itself, it's the online access. And it's like, to me, if you're going to do that, you might as well give them a phone.
Yeah, it's a tricky. I mean, because kids, I feel like they just come out and they know what to do with technology, and it's scary. It's cool to see, but it's also scary. Last time you were here, you were talking about a virtual program for parents, and thinking back, and I'm like, man, it kind of sounded like she was going to run for something. Did you know then? When did you make the decision to run for District 1?
I am so glad you asked me that. It had nothing to do with it, but everything to do with it. But I didn't know, and so that's how you know, like, things happen, and when you're following kind of the path and the journey. So part of the parent-family workshops that I was doing came from my work as a doctoral student, which I graduated a couple Saturdays ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And recently sworn in too. Congratulations.
Recently sworn in. I defended my dissertation the day before the election. So and so that was the synergy. So my work has my research has been around family engagement, how to get parents' voices at the table, how to help parents navigate through the schools. And so I'm sitting here, I'm writing my dissertation. And in your dissertations, there's a section called implications. The implication is like, how do you actually solve this problem? And what solutions do you actually have to this? And mine were all policy related. So I'm writing these policy related implications. And then I'm seeing just the landscape changing around the country as you think about the state of public education, the dismantling or the discussions around the Department of Education. What does that mean? Who is it going to impact the most? And then I was hearing about the school board openings being like happening, filings. And I'm like, how can I be who I say I am doing this work and not actually try to get a seat at the table? And so I talked to my husband probably the week of the 4th of July. I'm like really contemplating whether we're going to do this. And then the following week, we went to go file.
How do you balance that? Mom, career woman, wife, How do you balance all of that? That's a lot of work, because I'm like, man, if you are running for city council, school board, I don't think people realize how much work that goes in, how much time that goes into it. How do you balance all of that? And I know you just got there.
You just got school on top of that.
Well,
yeah.
And the first thing that I always tell, especially for people who are like listening, looking, and trying to figure it out, I'm like, I don't subscribe to balance. So I subscribe to what I call work-life integration. And really, today I may be the best mom ever, and I might not be given 100% at work. And the next day I'm giving it all to work, and maybe I'm just seeing my kids before they get in bed. But I've decided to assess myself and my impact to say, at the end of the week, have I shown up in the spaces that are important in the way I want in totality? And so instead of putting that weight and that burden of trying to have balance every day, it really is just trying to say, like, you can't do it all at the same time, but can you do what you're doing well over time? The other secret weapon I have is my mom. So my mom
Shout out to your
here.
mama.
Shout out to my mom. She is hands-on, all in. She's not one of those grandparents that's like, I've raised my kids, I don't want to have nothing to do with your kids. And I think the difference is, too, when it's your mom, they also care about you. So she's like, I want you to go as far as you can in school. I want to help you as long as I can. If I have to wash clothes, which she does, if I have to pack lunch, which she does, like, I got your back. So I also don't want people to think it is all me. So I have a great husband and also a very hands-on mom.
Well, District 1, and this is a full circle moment for you, because you graduated, you grew up here in Charlotte, you graduated from the CMS district. What are the challenges facing District 1? That's a big area, growing. Are you talking about Huntersville again? Cornelius, Davidson, a lot of these areas. North Charlotte, yeah,
is a part of it too. And so I loved saying this and reflecting on this. My parents are CMS graduates, so my mom and dad went to West Charlotte and West Meck respectively. I met my husband in the 10th grade advanced, which is Julius Chambers. My brother went there. My brother-in-law went there. My sister graduated from Philip O'Berry, and now we have a third grader in CMS. So
wow.
There is, I think that is, when you think about how many people are moving to the district, the county overall, 157 people moving every day. I actually think it's really good to have someone who is a product of the system in such a generational way. That's a first-generation college student that knows the impact CMS can have, because I know about Hampton University, where I went, because of my guidance counselors. Like, they exposed me to the possibilities, and I think every student deserves that. And when I think about District 1 and the diversity there, I think that's the number one challenge. One, North Charlotte is often felt like they're forgotten, right? Like, they're this northern part of the city, but they're not considered North Meck, but they're not, like, part of the central part of Charlotte. Then Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davidson, they're unique in their own individual ways. And so in some ways, you could see how some of the concerns that the community has is, like, you know, why are we a part of this big district? And so how do we make this big district feel small, I think, is the first thing. And how do we also keep pace with the growth that's happening in the district, being very strategic of thinking about how are we putting new schools in, and how are we working with the city and the county and the states to make sure that our infrastructure is growing with the growth of that area. And then, like any area in Charlotte, you have, you know, those that have socioeconomic privilege and those that don't. And so how do you meet those needs and speak to those people in the ways that resonate with them? As well as you have high-performing schools and lower-performing schools. And then you start to have the conversation of equity over equality. How do you make sure that our community's values, where that's important, is actually happening within the school grounds?
I was surprised to hear that, because they, like you said, a lot of people move to those areas. There's a lot of growth, but I guess you do feel, in a way, you're not connected to what's happening in Uptown, South End, NODA, those sort of LOSO, which is a new area.
Well, because if you're in Cornelius, right, do the people in LOSO say Cornelius?
No.
Or they just say Charlotte.
Yeah.
Right? But
yeah.
when you think about the beauty of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Schools District, you've got Huntersville, Cornelius, and Davis in my district, but you also have Pineville, you have Mint Hill. Like, there's so many other towns surrounding it, and we need to call those names out. Because when we say all, but we don't specify, people don't feel included.
Overcrowding is something that we, and I want to shout out Walker Lawson. He spoke with you recently. That's something, I guess, with growth comes more kids, more families. And can you talk about how the district is addressing that, or the plans next year and beyond?
Yes, so we actually have a new middle school off Stumptown Road that's planned to be opened in 2028, August 2028. And so what that is supposed to do is to relieve Bailey and Bradley Middle School because there's so much growth in that area. And so there's like the strategic approach, knowing ahead of time that those schools will be overcrowded. And so how are we making sure we're providing those reliefs? We're also doing some renovation at North Meck High School, which is well overdue, and people are super excited about that. And I think that the district overall, especially to the bond, it was over $2 million bond that the community approved and helped us advocate for, to invest into the infrastructure and the facilities of our school.
Wow. So far, what has been, I'm sure you've gotten emails. I'm sure you've gotten messages on social media. What has been the feedback from parents, from community members? Now that you're on the board, because I think when you get elected, they're like, okay, what are you going to do for me right now?
Yes, well, let me tell you this. My number one constituent is my son. And so he was very active on the campaign trail, which I loved. That he had an upfront voice in that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Even when we would go to churches, he would stand out after church, passing out flyers, going to soccer games, just doing all the things. And so the night before the election, we had a conversation as a family. Like, what happens if we lose? And if we don't win, how are we going to feel? How are we going to show up? Because it's a very real thing. You're putting yourself out there, but you don't know the results. You're not in control. It's up to the people. And so the night of the election, we won. He ran up to me, burst out crying. And he's like, we did it. And so the next day, he's having a meeting with me. And he's like, Mommy, I don't like cheese dippers on Fridays. So can you get this off the school menu? No. It's like, can you fire my principal? I'm like, do you want him to be fired? No. But I just want to know, can you? I'm like, well, no, Mommy can't do that either. He's like, so can you extend recess? I'm like, nope, Mommy can't do that. He's like, so why did we do all this? Because I'm not actually sure what you can do. So just so you all know, like, I actually have a critic and my biggest constituent in my home that's trying to figure it out. So now we go to the community. And I think the biggest aha moment that I've had through my onboarding and training within the district, and then speaking to parents, is that people actually don't really understand what the school board does and can do, right? And so our kind of mantra is student outcomes don't change until adult behaviors change. And so the board is focused on student outcomes and achievement. So we care about the little people. And the superintendent is charged with caring for the adults and making sure that the adults are doing what they're supposed to do so that students can learn. So when you think about some of the concerns that people have, my bus is late, I don't like my school's location, or I have a concern around school lunch. Those aren't actually policy governing, making things that the school board itself has control over. We have a pathway to help get it passed over to the right piece, right person, but we can't just snap our finger and make it happen. And it's a vote, right? And so no one individual board member can do any one thing. You actually have to have 5 people at a minimum agree that this policy needs to be changed. And so I think that's been the biggest aha for me that I would want the community to know. It's not that we don't want to do it, but if we don't stay in our lane and do our job as a governance perspective, then we're actually getting in the way. And we know that when you don't stay in your roles and responsibilities, who's impacted the most? The kids. And our job is to make sure the kids aren't impacted.
That is interesting. Yeah, I never thought about that. Yeah, people, I think, we have an idea of what the job function is, but we don't really know what actually
until you get in it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how, and you have the views, right, of what you're seeing on the media, what you're reading, but until you get into the seat and understand what your limitations are, and of course you could overstep, but overstepping definitely would have downstream impacts, just like in any job, right?
Yeah.
And the downstream impacts, I believe, from a board member is it impacts the kids. And I will never do anything that's gonna put harm into children. And so I will stay in the governing body lane, which also means, son, I cannot get cheese dippers off the cafeteria menu.
I was about to say, I like cheese dippers. They were pretty good.
But do you like school lunch cheese dippers, or?
Those are the ones, they were not bad.
When's the last time you had a school lunch cheese dipper?
Exactly.
It's been a long time.
See, you're thinking about your fancy mozzarella sticks with the marinara sauce.
I'm thinking about Chili's,
I'm
Applebee's.
not exactly sure that's what he's talking about.
Well, look, I know, and you described it so well. School board, you work as a group. I mean, you have to vote on things. It's not one person running the show. But personally, is there something that you would like to get accomplished in 2026?
So I would say I will take the year off of it because I'm also so new. I don't appreciate fully the timeline of processes. But the one priority that I have is trying to make sure that parents feel like in this big school district that it's small for them.
Okay.
And that means that they know how to navigate and advocate for their child. They know the pathways to do that. They know that they could come to me as a board member, and even if I can't magically do it, that I know a pathway to help them. I think that is so important as we think about kind of that parent-teacher partnership and what does it look like for the whole child to learn, and parents needing to be a partner with our teachers. But sometimes people don't know the way to do that, or they don't feel welcome to do that. They don't know how all the resources that are available. So my real big focus is on family and community engagement and making it more accessible. The second thing is really leaning into artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And how do we not only think about how it impacts the way students learn and how teachers teach, but also just how the organization runs overall. I think people don't often talk about the district being the third largest employer in the county with over 19,000 employees.
Wow.
And so that is going to transform how that organization runs. And CMS is on a great pilot journey right now with 30 schools, and I love the crawl, walk, run approach. But I think I would be able to also kind of lean into some of those policy-making decisions through my expertise, through my day job, running the artificial intelligence strategy for our city.
I remember you mentioned at our last interview over the summertime. Dr. Charlitta Hatch, thank you for stopping by again. We want you to come back because, again, important information happening within our school district that we need to know. Some stuff that we, transparently, we don't know. And we need we need somebody to tell us.
We got to demystify it.
Yeah. So thank you for coming in. Happy holidays.
You.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy New Year.
All the things.
Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just 2 minutes here on Live Impact News on WCNC Plus.